It's been about a month since I produced my last update of my Carnivorous plants pond featuring North American pitcher plants. Now in that time, we've been getting plenty of sunshine, we've been getting plenty of rain, we're finally getting a break right now, and there's been heaps and heaps of insects about. So that in combination has meant very, very happy carnivorous plants. Now, in that time, they've really grown really strongly, and I can't wait to show you how much they've grown and what they look like right now. Also in that time, I've been doing some experimenting with pumice stone rock planters and pieces of moss. I suppose I'm trying to create a wild, natural look around the edges of the pond, and I can't wait to show you how that's going along. My name is Jerry from Succulent Fly Traps. So this gives you an idea now of how my carnivorous plants pond looks like. As I said earlier, we've just had some rain. We're finally getting a break and some sunshine's coming out. And as that sunlight comes through, the tops of these pitchers really do stand out. Look at all those different colours coming through. It really does produce a dazzling colour effect, don't you reckon? I've got Rubicophora here, Maxima varieties. That's a Leucophila red vein variety that's going to produce really nice pitchers in autumn. And I've got the Capria, they're the ones with the large bronze coloured tops. I've got this beautiful red coloured hybrid that's really coming up gorgeous. It does look beautiful. Now, as I said earlier, there's been heaps of insects about, and that's demonstrated here by this housefly. Every time I'm out here, I see flies dancing around the tops of those pitchers, and we've even got this hoverfly over here as well. So they really do love to lap up the nectar around the pitchers. Fly over there, and I always love watching them fall in because I know that me plants are happily feeding then. As well as flies, there's been heaps of ants around the pitchers. Now, I'm not sure whether I mentioned this in my last video, but I have placed these twigs leading onto the pots just so ants can crawl up there and scurry around the pitchers. Not only that, I've also placed them around the back over here as well. You can see these twigs over here. There's another one over there as well. It just helps to give access to terrestrial insects such as ants, and they love to lap up the nectar around the hoods of the pitchers. You might see some around here. They congregate around where the nectar is, and every now and again you see them falling in. Now this is what I love about having this garden around here. So we've got heaps of ants around here, and even though there's a lot of them, I know that this pond over here is controlling their numbers. Every now and again you see them fall in, and I come out here with a torch and I shine the torch around the base of these pitchers, and you can see the silhouette of ants inside. So I know that these pitchers are doing their job in capturing those ants. At the same time, I know that the ants are benefiting from the nectar. Not all of them are falling in, so they still survive for another day. It's just that that's what I love about this. It's reducing their numbers, but in a completely natural way, of course without any chemicals as well. Now I just wanted to show you one of these plants. One of my favourite. They're all beautiful. This is one of my favourites. This is the Capria variety. I'm just going to take it out. Just going to show you what it looks like by itself. This is one of my favourite plants. Let's have a look. Have a look at that. That's a picture of health right there. And I love how you've got these various vertical heights of pitches as you go up the plant. And I just love those oversized lids on those pitches. Really, really beautiful plant. All right, so that's the actually, let's look over here. This is what I was talking about. Those ants. Look at them all there, congregating around the pitcher. Just can't get enough of that nectar. Okay, so that's with the plants. Now, you'll notice here that I've got this planter over here, pumice stone planter, empty pumice stone planter. The reason it's empty is because I've taken it out of my miniature garden, which I've placed into this pond. And this is it over here. So if you've been following my YouTube channel, this probably looks familiar to you, this miniature garden over here. And if you look closely enough, you can see the edges of the tray. So this miniature garden over here used to sit over here on the edge, and I thought, why not just place it into the pond? I sold quite a few of the North American pitcher plants, so that's provided some extra space. So I've placed the miniature garden in there, and I tell you what, since I have, about say 10 days ago, it really has come up beautifully. Now, before I placed it into the pond, I decided to take this pumice stone planter out. Now, this had Venus flytraps growing in there, and they were really growing beautifully in there, to the point where they were getting a bit cramped, so I decided to take them out. And this is a photo of what the plants look like in the planter. And this planter over here just gives you an idea of how deep I drilled the hole into it. I didn't mean to drill all the way through down the base, but hey, it still produced the desired effect. Those plants grew really well. And what I wanted to show you as well is you can see the moss growing here on the edges of this planter. Must have been a little bit of peat moss in the edges around the crevices, and that was enough for the moss to grow into. And once it starts growing in there, it starts to get established, and it really does produce a nice, beautiful look. So I'm just going to place that planter back into the pond. But let's just have a look here at the miniature garden. I've left these flowers develop. This is a flower stalk of a Venus flytrap, and that's the plant down there. I normally cut off the flower stalks because they do tend to sap energy out of the plant, but well, they're sitting in a pond here, so I thought I'm just going to leave these flowers. It produces a another effect, produces vertical height and colour, and that's the result. Absolutely beautiful. These other white flowers are from Drossera Banata. That's the T-shaped leaves of this sundew over here. You can see the Y or T-shaped leaves. Look how many there are. It started off as one plant, and it's just grown across the tray, popping up new shoots along the way, and in turn it's produced all these flowers. And I just love how, not open now, but when that sun comes out, they'll open up again, and it really does add colour to this pond. And what I have been noticing is that since I've placed this miniature garden into the pond, the sphagnum moss has come up really beautifully. Now, as I said earlier, the tray was sitting up here. It was growing well, the plants in there, but I was noticing that the sphagnum moss was starting to die off a bit. As soon as I placed it into this pond, it really did green up, and especially after this rain that we've had, it really is starting to green up even more. There we go, there's another shot there around the base of that planter there, featuring Drossera spatulata. And the reason why it's come up beautifully in this pond is because there's less temperature variations. The tray up here was exposed to the sunlight a bit more, so that heated up that tray a bit, and that sort of created an environment that was a little bit too warm for the sphagnum moss. By having the tray sitting in this pond, the water is cooler, and it tends to sort of stay cooler more constantly throughout the day, and that's what this sphagnum moss really loves. Okay, and over here, this probably looks familiar as well. This is a pumice stone planter featuring one of my favourite Venus flytraps. So this was part of another miniature garden. So that miniature garden, I decided to take this planter out, and I just decided to place it into this pond. And look at the natural look. I love how the sundews are growing there around the edges, as long as the moss. And of course, the main plant there is looking really, really well, producing these 2 centimetre size traps, and of course producing all these side shoots down the bottom as well. And what I also decided to do is I wanted to camouflage the edge of the tray of this miniature garden. You can see the edge over here, and to cover it up, to camouflage it, I decided to take the top layers of moss from plants which I had recently sold and unpotted. You can see the moss growing in that pot plant there. So once I unpotted it, I took that top layer off, and I put pieces of moss around the edges of this tray, and you can see how it's really covered up the edge beautifully. You can't even see it around here. I've left it exposed over there just so you can see how the edge looks like. Now, to prop up this moss, I've placed pieces of pumice rock around the bottom of where the pond liner is, and I just placed that moss on top. And the pumice stone being so porous, it does absorb water, which helps to keep the moss damp, which is what it needs to survive. And what I mentioned in my last update is that I placed this felt material around the edges of the pond. The reason why I did that is because there were insects which couldn't get out once they were trapped in the surface film of the water. This pond line is very, very slippery, especially when it's wet, and insects have a hard time getting out. So I placed that pond liner in, and as an extra benefit, because it does absorb water, you can place sections of moss right up against to the edge, and that felt material helps to keep the moss damp, which helps to get established around the edge of the pond. And I can't wait to see how this looks like in a month or a couple of months' time. I suppose I'm providing a foundation for the plants to grow. And what I also wanted to show you is this overhang that I've created. I was only able to create that because these sections of moss, they stay together because the moss has already established itself. You can put these pieces in there and it tends to keep together, and I'm hoping that one day a frog will go in there. It's like a bit of a cavity in there, and the only reason I was able to do that is because of this pumice stone on one side supporting that piece, and I've got the felt on the other side, so together they keep the moss nice and damp, and that enabled me to produce that bit of an overhang there. So yeah, it does have its advantages of using this moss, being together, being established. It does keep the peat moss together, and you're able to sort of form a nice wild look. And even though we've had a bit of rain here, you can see how that moss is still together and holding together nicely. I've also placed another pumice stone rock here. This is foot scrubber. I must have bought about 12 of them. Just decided to put that in there just to produce another look. It's got its own texture, colour and form, so it sort of looks like a oversized pebble, I suppose, but yeah, it does provide its own sort of effect to the pond. There's another one over there as well. And of course all my tropical sundews there growing really nicely. So that just gives you an idea of how the plants look like. They're looking very, very healthy. They're very, very happy. And as I said earlier, there have been a lot of insects, and here's a picture of a mantis that I saw earlier, so about a week ago. And he was really making the most of all the flies buzzing around the pictures, and I even saw him catch a few flies, so I know he was happy. He's not here now, but it just goes to show that when you have a carnivorous plants garden, because the insects are attracted to it, you're going to get a lot of insect predators as well, such as that mantis. So yeah, lovely to see nature at work. So hopefully I've given you a bit of an idea about what you can achieve with your pond and carnivorous plants. So if you're looking for healthy, beautiful carnivorous plants, visit my online store. Now, hopefully I've also given you a bit of an idea of how you can create that wild, natural look around the edges of your pond with pieces of moss and pumice stone planters. Now, if you're looking to purchase pumice stone planters, leave your details in the comments box of the video. The more numbers I get, the lower the prices of those planters are going to be, because if I only get samples, that keeps the costs up. So until next time everyone, happy growing.